Two.
Good evening, everyone. The time being 6:00 p.m. on Monday, June 22nd, 2026. I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order. Ask that we stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, both video and audio, and will be posted on the district website. The first item on the agenda is the discussion and approval of the minutes from the June 9th, 2026 meeting. Is there any discussion around those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Caleros?
Yes.
Member Bennett?
Yeah.
Tracy Dickey?
Yes, motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mrs. Franklin.
Good evening. I have a very brief report because I know we're pretty heavy on the other end of the meeting. So I will start with a quick personnel update. I'm happy to say we hired 2 new ADAs at Park Ave. We have a Katrina Johnson and Aaliyah Stewart. I want to welcome them to the Webster Public Schools. We also have a couple transfers to announce. David Moreno, the assistant principal, is transferring to the position at the high school. So we want to welcome him to the high school. And then we have Eric Vasquez, a para at Park Avenue, who will be transferring over to the middle school. All of our positions are posted and we are currently actively interviewing, and we expect to fill many of them in the upcoming weeks. Any questions about personnel?
To the chair.
Yes.
Member Mills?
It's just a little personal question. Is Katrina a former student?
Yes, I believe she is. Yes,
Okay.
yes, she is. I think you had her.
Is. She's
Yes.
wonderful. So I
Because when I talked to her, she
recognized
said, I graduated from here. We were talking. She actually, I think, remembered me too.
Well, that's a good news
She was
story.
at Park
Yeah.
Ave. She was at Park Ave too.
Yeah.
Wow, always nice when we have kids come back home and as
Absolutely.
grown-ups and give back.
Yep, for sure. And then in other updates, we are currently working on closing out the school year. Tomorrow is our last day. It's a half day for our students and staff. The full leadership team, this week has 2 full days of end of year meetings. Unfortunately for us, it is business as usual as we continue out this week. There's so much that we have to tie up before the end of the year. We have a full day, our final day, of mediation training for the entire team and also counselors on Wednesday. And then the second day, will be spent doing end of year data reviews, some additional training as we close out the year. We also have a couple days scheduled for July and our summer summits as we prepare for the new year. So it's a busy couple of weeks for us, as we're juggling, and hopefully everybody can find some time to take a couple of days off in there and just kind of shut off school for a little bit and regenerate, and get ready for the upcoming year. In addition to our summer summits, we sent out some professional development surveys to the staff. We did a needs assessment to gather feedback on their professional learning needs. And we also did another survey looking for staff and their willingness to provide professional development. Some of the feedback that we've gotten is, let's use the talent that we have in district to provide PD. So we're gathering that information and as we start to plan for the upcoming year. Are there any questions about that? No. Summer programming, as we know, our summer feeding program kicks off in the summer. We've done a great job. Our cafeteria director, Kelsey, has been a great asset for our community in bringing this program. And we appreciate the partnership with the library because we do a lot of meals down at the library, gain a lot of interest there. So the summer program is going to start on July 6th and it's going to run through August 14th at the public library. Park Ave is also an open site and is available July 6th through the end of July. Both sites will be open from 12 to 1 for lunch. So anybody 18 and under the age of 18. And then I believe I've reported to you about our family MCAS portal. We had a quick turnaround on that. I am happy to say that the state came out and realized they were asking a lot of districts as they're trying to close out the year and get ready for the new year. So they have extended that date until August 14th to give districts time to prepare for that. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Grangely. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none. Next item on the agenda is the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Contos.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with the Bartlett High School renovation project. Kind of continuing with the last meeting's update, our two key focal areas coming up is the surplus of the furniture in the building. We actually have an agenda item later in the meeting to go over that surplus. And then they're planning for the receipt of the new furniture. So lots of logistical planning that we're doing. With respect to the surplus items, we have gone out to across the state to all of the public schools, offering up items on the list. We've actually reached out to department heads across the town to see if there's any interest. So we're actively looking for placement of these surplus items. The additional work that's going on that'll be very heavy this summer is the site work across the campus and what we'll call the hardscaping. So what's going to start next week is the bus loop reconfiguration. So there's new curbing that's going in, and then the walkway from the tennis court parking lots as well as around the corner. We're getting new concrete sidewalks. So we're going to start with that area of the campus. It's going to continue for the full 8 weeks of the summer, which will also include milling of the asphalt and then repaving. So we have planned for the summer programming where the buses will drop off as a result of these changes, and working very closely with the GC to make sure that we can coordinate all of that scheduling to not impact operations while we have summer programming going on. Any questions about the renovation project?
It's great that you're putting some of this stuff earlier on in the project.
As for some maintenance updates, I'm going to focus on Park Ave. At the last meeting, I mentioned that we had an issue with the water heater. It turned out that the water heater's circulation pump failed, and that was actually replaced on Friday. Initially, we thought it was the vessel that had failed, so further inspection confirmed that it was the pump. So we're very thankful for that because the replacement cost was far more significant if we actually had to replace the vessel itself. So that was good news, and that's been replaced. In terms of what we typically call HVAC, but at Park Ave, it's really a climate control system that we have. It's not a traditional air conditioning type of system that manages the environment there. And so we've experienced some performance instability over several weeks. And a couple weeks ago, during the high external temperatures, classroom conditions fluctuated significantly, with some spaces on the third floor getting into the upper 80s. As you can imagine, that created a lot of discomfort and then concern from us operationally. We did do some initial mechanical remediation on the system and some targeted updates in the software, and that's been completed. So those actions we've seen some improvement in the baseline, but not fully recovered to where we want that performance to be and where the gaps are. So we did conduct some additional diagnostics. So that went across all the mechanicals, the control logic, and all of the sensors within the network. And so findings did show that there's some additional remediation that we can do. So we are working on that plan to figure out the right approach and how we'll get that remediated. So our priority is going to be getting it back to a reliable climate control system so that we can prevent any reoccurrences from happening. And while we've been doing this, we've actually reminded the staff of how important it is to not cover vents, because that impacts the airflow in the classroom. We're enforcing that to make sure that those vents aren't covered. The one thing that we're not yet mandating is keeping the windows closed. We're allowing staff to do that. However, that does disrupt how the climate control system works in the building. But until we can get that up and running reliably, we're not going to enforce that until we feel comfortable with the baseline stability of the overall system. Any questions about that?
Certainly sounds like it was uncomfortable there for a bit. Glad to know that it's improving. I wonder about the possibility of having portable air conditioners just for heat waves where it's really uncomfortable in some of those classrooms.
I'm not sure that would be, we'd actually have to look at what would the cost per unit, what would that do to the actual functioning of the
Right.
system itself? Probably can those outlets accommodate that? Like, so lots of things we'd actually have to look at to see whether or not that would truly be feasible.
Okay, something to,
I think what I'd rather do is get the system up and running the way it should. And then consider that in the future if we had to.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from anybody? Is that all of your report, Mrs.
That's all I
Collins? Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for your updates. The next, we have no old business, so our next item on our agenda under new business is the discussion and approval of the Bartlett High School student handbook. Good evening, Mrs. Davis.
Good evening. I have an updated
Updated.
changes page. Yeah. Based on some of the feedback and some of the discussions we've had at school since.
Is it different than what's in the Drive.
There's two little changes
That's
in
fine.
there.
Thank
And I actually copied and pasted the exact piece into that.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. We'll just use this.
Okay. I think the first, going through, without reading them all, the first, I updated up through page 11, was all housekeeping. Kind of updates. To page 11, I added in the Special Education Parent Advisory Council to match the district language. One of the changes I did take out were all the schedules and whatnot. I'm gonna post those right onto the website, so they're available all of the time. Truancies on page 15. Right now, last year, up until this year, it always said a student wasn't able to make up the work if they were truant. We have put in place a protocol where if the student if the student's truant and they attend the next Saturday school, they can make up that work for up to 75% credit back on the assignments that they had missed, giving them that little carrot to get it done. So that was one of the changes that we added. Also on page 15, the tardies to school. We did a lot of work with Saturday schools and social probation this past year. Let me just get my bottom line. We instituted Saturday schools right from the beginning of the year for tardies. Right off the bat, we had 100 tardies for every Saturday school. And out of those, looking at the numbers, for instance, the first one was 109 tardies that were assigned to come to Saturday school, 49 attended. The next one was 119, 39 attended. And that stayed pretty much the same, 108, 27 attended, with no change in the tardies, right? So I was always rolling them over, or the students had so many that it went past the number of Saturday schools that we had available based on their tardies. So we said, what can we do to institute a change? So we tried social probation. And we did that in November, the beginning of Q2. And instantly, I still kept the Saturday schools at this time, but with the social probation added, our numbers went down in tardies. So we ended Q1 with where there was no social probation, with grade 9 having 686 tardies, 471 for grade 10. There were 1,034 instances of tardies for grade 11 and 876. This was at the end of Q1. Social probation put into place, 686 went to 505. 471 went to 285. 1,034 went down to 438. 876 went down to 526. And then it continued to go down for Q3. We saw a little uptick in Q4, end of the school year, and it was all the last couple of weeks. So we decided with not seeing the attendance at Saturday schools and the behaviors at Saturday schools increase when they were there just because of tardies, that we moved to the social probation piece. So we are looking at at the 7th, we'll still keep the progression. But at the 7th. Tardy? Number 5, we'll get, at the 5th, sorry.
Yeah.
5th, we'll get 7 days of social probation, and for every tardy after that, we'll do another 7 days. It's calendar days, it's not school days, so it does at times affect the weekends for dances and whatnot. We didn't see any effect with the sports students, the athletes, one athlete pushed it a little bit. Other than that, they towed the line, they came to school. We were saying, how can we reach those kids that aren't athletes, who aren't in clubs? So we do a lot of during the school day activities with PBIS, so we're gonna incorporate that as well. There'll be other activities or other classrooms where those students will go to if there's a new school event as well, to hopefully grab that last bunch of, students that weren't into the sports or the clubs. So that's what we're looking at for the tardies. We did add in a piece for students that drive on the 10th one, a suspension, not saying for how long, we look at the individual student for driving to school. The number of tardies for a handful of students that drive to school were outrageous for some of them, every day. And so we wanted to be able to work with the parents and say, you know what, for a week, you're not able to drive, let's get back to school, and set up little individual contracts with these students. So not saying the what or for how long, but to look at each individual person. Do they drive because there's no one else that can get them there? They can't take a bus. Do they drive and have to go to an internship? So we'll take everyone into, its own situation. I did, after looking at your feedback and talking to some staff, we took out the tardies to class, changing it to an absence at this time. That wasn't in our old handbook, but we were looking at instituting it, so I did take that out. We want to collect some data this school year, and work with the teachers on accurate attendance taking for tardies. So it's the same and consistent across all staff before we start to say, it's an absence for this class, but it didn't affect this one, but that's because we're not all taking attendance the same. So we want to work with the staff to make sure we're consistent with tardies attendance. Other big ones on page 20, we did get the yonder pouches for this upcoming school year. And I kind of looked at the middle school language and brought it over to ours, changed it up a little bit, but so we have a progression of consequences there. And we looked at adding in the ability to use wired headphones only, not the earbuds or anything like that, just the wired headphones with the Chromebook if the teacher gives them permission. So we did add that piece. Also looking at the other handbooks, we did add in the fundraising piece. We didn't have that in there. And we had a lot of students gambling, trading money, whether it be for just to do the money or to trade for clothes or sneakers or whatever it be. So we did put a policy in there about the gambling and the trading of money. What else? Grading system. We had 70 for summatives and 30 for formatives. We went 60 summatives, 40 formatives, and built in a homework piece into that formative piece. So 10% will be homework, 30% will be classwork. And in-house, we're gonna get a little bit more specific as far as there needs to be so many entries in PowerSchool for each class, so many assessments and whatnot. But for the sake of the students and the staff, this is the policy. We'll do that in-house and have that protocol set for staff when they return.
Meaning, sorry to jump in
Yeah.
there, meaning what types of assignments count as formatives?
And how many?
Yeah.
One summative is going to
It
have.
takes you,
Yeah, the student has no way to recover.
Right.
So how many do they have to have for each of those categories? So to be fair for the students.
That's great, that makes sense.
This next one on page 27, currently for the loss of credit due to absences, currently we have two different categories. We had 10 points for more than 4 absences. And then we had academic failure for more than 9 absences. It was very, very tough with our school, with our systems to track that. It was very hard when students were absent to manage that. So we did a lot of research with a lot of different schools, and I've changed this a little bit with, again, looking at your feedback. And went to after we went with the state guidelines for chronic absenteeism for 9 for a semester-based course and 18 for a full year course. And we're gonna work with the students that once they hit 4, 2 different stages. Once they hit 4, we'll have an in-person meeting with the student and the families to kind of say, this is what's gonna happen if you reach 9 in a semester-based course. You can still pass your class, but you're not gonna get that credit for the course. There'll be a way to get that credit. We'll meet again and come up with your individual credit recovery plan by doing after-school sessions, Saturday school sessions, or even the summer school. And just the same for full year courses, not meet at the 9 the first time with the parents to kind of give the heads up that if it doesn't improve, we're gonna meet again at the 18 if they reach it for a full year course, and same thing. If you reach 18, you're gonna lose credit for the class, you'll get to keep your grade for the course, but that's not gonna count towards your GPA until you make up that time, again, after school, Saturday schools, or over the summer. And it'll be individual for each kid, depending on their need. And we put in an appeal process that they can appeal at that time, to the principal, if they're, were there reasons for this, bring more information to us, and we'll look at each individual piece. So that was the change that we made there. It's really long inside here. And then all of the rest of it from page 35 on is all of the housekeeping, updating, with like all of the district language again, and to be more aligned with, looking at the middle school. So it flows from both schools. And that's all I have for the handbook.
I have just a couple of questions or comments.
Sure.
Let's see here. I agree that Saturday school is geared towards like credit recovery
Yeah.
than punitive. So it makes sense to not pull in kids that are tardy and whatever. It detracts from the kids that are trying to regain their credit. Do we do detentions for students that are
We do,
tardy?
so it's one of the steps up until, before this even happens.
Okay. You might consider where you're at page 15, tardies to school, saying parking privileges may be suspended if they drive, only because you said, you factor in like internships and stuff like that.
Yep.
So if there's some kind of a discretion there.
Okay.
And then with regard to the grading system, I'm at page 26. Do we have any timelines for grading that students can expect to have their work graded by?
So within the, same thing, within those in-house protocols, it's going to be so many entries by the end of the week. And same thing for makeup work. If something's turned in late, give them a time frame. So I wanted to be able to sit with the full admin team to be able to do this summer. My goal, and we'll talk a little bit about it more when I get into the others, is to have like a protocol binder for all of these different things for teachers, secretaries, like on every different level for things that, the flow of pieces and the grading, the Power School piece is just one in itself. Like not just how many entries, but the win, because again, same thing, I don't want them to come to the week before and say, oh, I'm passing, or the opposite, I'm failing, and it's, they find out at report card time, it's the complete opposite. So, it's a struggle right now, but that's one of the pieces of the protocols that we're gonna put into place.
Yeah, that sounds good. I know, and obviously I have firsthand experience, right? It adds a level of mutuality for responsibility and being timely.
Yeah.
If we're expecting our students to complete their assignments in a timely fashion, I feel that it's reasonable to expect our educators to be grading them in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
It causes unnecessary stress for kids. And then they don't know where they stand
Right.
until it's sometimes too late.
Right.
So, that would be great. And maybe in the future, it's something we could have so that the kids can know,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm held accountable. I need to be at school on time and I need to get my work done on time. And also, the grownups also are held
Yeah.
accountable to that. And I'm sure you're holding people accountable, but it's nice to see it.
Yep.
And you mentioned you were gonna be checking in with kids when they're approaching that 9 and 18
Mhm.
absences.
Yeah, halfway, I did the 4 for the 9 and then 9 for the 18.
Yeah.
So at the very least, that there'll be one with the attendance committee at those 2 dates, in addition to their counselors in between.
Sounds good. No. So that's my feedback. Any questions or comments from you?
I guess a really quick question is that, do parents get the sample?
Yes.
For long, yeah. Yeah. And they're actually linked in every one of your newsletters.
They are.
Ms. Davis links the handbook in every newsletter too.
And then I pull out certain sections, so kind of even, highlighted certain sections in addition to having it linked in there.
Like the tardy policy.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Through the chair.
Member Claris?
I just want to thank you for addressing all the feedback I gave you. It looks great. I think it's very clear. And I think with the tardies, I think that's just, I think you guys are doing great work trying to get it under control. It's just never easy on how to address it. I'm just wondering, how would you enforce the no parking? Like, who would be out there to know whether or not they're parking there? Okay, I'm just wondering, like, do they have like a little sign that they put on their
They do.
car? Okay,
They do.
so if they don't
Parking
have a car,
passes.
perfect.
They
So
would
they
have to
have
hand
par-
in their parking pass and we give
Perfect.
it back when they get
So
it back.
that's, I guess my question is how would you know? But that makes
Yeah.
sense if they don't have a parking pass and they
We
can't
had
park
assigned
there.
numbers.
Oh,
Even as
okay.
staff, we had assigned numbers.
That's right. I remember that from last year. But otherwise, I really like the way, I mentioned it, but I really like the way you organize the classes and the progression and how like employment opportunities relate to the class that you take. And I thought that was really nice to read as like a parent, even to read that. I thought it was great. I love the flow of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it felt more like guidance
Yeah.
than just out to,
Just like a rule book. It was helpful to feel like the feel of the school.
right,
Yeah, I liked it. That was nice.
There are no surprises,
right.
what's there is there. There's nothing in my mind that somebody can say, oh, well, my child didn't do this, it wasn't clear. I think it's very clear.
Yeah.
What needs to be
Mhm.
followed.
I also just want to thank you for incorporating the feedback that we had and for getting the handbook to us so that we could spend some time with it and really be thoughtful about.
It was very helpful from you, Jen.
Thanks. Thanks. It felt really collaborative, so it's appreciated. Good work. Any other questions or comments from the committee about, the Bartlett High School student handbook? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Before I do a roll call vote, I actually would like to backtrack a little bit because we made some recommendations. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the student handbook as presented with the agreed upon changes.
so moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Claros?
Yes.
Member Millet?
Yes.
Trustee Dickey?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Davis, and your team. I know you can't Whistle Symphony. You guys worked really hard on this all together, but thanks for leading the way. And the next item on the agenda is approval, discussion and approval of updates to the Bartlett High School Program of Studies.
Okay, just a couple changes on here. We. Printed my wrong change page. I did. I'm gonna go from memory here really quick.
Yeah, well, I'm looking.
I don't have the change page in front of me. I printed the wrong one.
Okay.
That's okay. I think there was a couple. We added in our advisory schedule, explanation of our advisory schedule into the handbook. We did it once a month this past year. We're moving to once a week this upcoming school year. And we put an explanation so parents and kids can know what's gonna happen in there. So it's more than just what it was this year of the social emotional learning once a week. That'll be one piece. But we're going to add in, different areas of, academic, where they can get help with their academics into there. So I put the description of advisories. And I also, put in the description of directed study inside of the handbook this year. So we took out, we're not gonna have temp study or I don't remember the name of the other study hall, but it's directed study. It'll be with a teacher that's going to check grades, that's going to, you know, really guide the students if they're placed in there, and they would be placed in there if they're an AP student. Or really guided based on what courses they're taking. Other than that, it won't be, you know, we're not gonna have students in there. It's very specific students that'll be in there based on their courses that they're taking. For the assistance that they may need, more specifically, the advanced placement courses would be tied to that. We added in 2 early college classes. We received our designation, and so Worcester State was able to finalize the 2 courses. Inside of there, so we added those into the book. I believe those are the only changes I made with the program of studies.
Any questions or comments from the committee? We're situated pretty well for Mass Core, right? I know that's a
Yes.
separate conversation, but we're already pretty
We
well
follow
on
it.
track. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Excellent. If there are no questions or comments for Ms. Nieves regarding the Bartlett High School Program of Studies for next school year, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Caleros?
yes.
Member Miller?
Yeah.
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Davis, don't go anywhere. The next item on the agenda.
I could have planned it a little
Yeah.
better, give you a little break.
It's okay,
all over
I don't wanna be
it.
into.
Just for good measure. The next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the Bartlett High School Improvement Plan.
Okay, so our school improvement plan at the high school is driven by the state. Bartlett's is a 1-year school improvement plan this year. And the state has targeted 3 areas for us to work in. We built in a 4th. So we need to look at academic achievement, on the state testing. Student attendance, so the chronic absenteeism. Our graduation rate are the 3 that the state has said, because of our numbers, you know, to come up with a plan with. We've added in a 4th for safe and supportive schools. And let me start at the beginning. For academic achievement, we are looking at the goal of grade 10 students, increasing their scores by a 3. Again, these are aligned, our percentages are in line with the district plan. So increasing by 3.4% across all achievement levels and subgroups, as measured by the MCAS performance data through the implementation of standards aligned instruction, targeted interventions, data-driven instructional practices, and ongoing progress monitoring. So I have a lot of different strategies along the way to go through them. Again, I had said before that it's a summer of protocols for us. So for each area within here, there's gonna be a very specific protocol on how to do this. Whether it's, so the tier 1 instruction, so looking at our CPT, our common planning time, again, and really aligning what we're doing across the board in them. Looking at going back to analyzing student work, going back to the student work protocol, we had kind of gotten away from that a little bit, not that it went away, but 2 years ago, we were really looking at student writing and the progress. Yes, we still do student writing, but then this year we had the focus of our discourse and our questioning, so not losing sight of anything, but bringing that other piece back in and examining the student work. Implementing different instructional supports within the classroom, building this into our learning the learning walks that we do all the time, whether it be a district learning walk or our school-based learning walks. Not just looking for, you know, those 3 things that we said, also looking at the strategies, the specific strategies that are being used. So we can have more data to go back to our teachers and say, we need to see more of this, or we didn't see this. Just really, expanding it and looking at it on a lot of different levels. Attendance was the next one. We want to increase overall student regular attendance from 89 to 93 and reduce the chronic absenteeism rate from 37 to 34 through targeted attendance interventions, family engagement strategies, and ongoing monitoring of attendance data. So looking at the different tiered systems that we have, you know, a lot of the communication will continue. We do a lot now to reach out, but I just talked a little bit about how we're gonna improve that piece. Also building in a tier 2 system where we do check-ins and check-outs with a specific group of students that are struggling. I know that was a piece of the feedback. So it's not with all kids and what that'll look like. It's a targeted group of students, that have risen. And tier 3 would be to really be specific with plans on that third group of students that even need a little bit more. One of the things tied between both the handbook and this is coming up with a strong attendance committee that meets weekly, made up of an admin, a counselor, and, at least a teacher. Again, that's summer work for this summer to put that together. But, we met now, but it wasn't as frequent as once a week. We want to do it once a week so we can be on top of it quicker. The consistent school-wide classroom management and engagement framework. Again, these are all different, like I said, protocols that we're going to put into place. Graduation rate. By the end of the 26-27 school year, increase the overall graduation rate from these numbers in red might fluctuate a little bit. We had to wait till the school year ended to do this, so that's why you see 2 numbers in red on this page, so we'll update it with the most recent data. To 84, from 79, which is the last time we looked, to 84% or higher, and increase the grade 9 course passing rate from 35 to 45%. We had to wait until grades closed before we can update that number. They're closing tonight. So we'll increase that. Again, implementing a new monitoring system, a closer monitoring system that will come up with, again, that protocol this summer. Individual graduation plans for students that may be, that tier 3 system, again, those specific students that need individual plans. Implement structured intervention supports during the school day. So part of that advisory block that we'll be doing once a week, one of those groups will be very specific work done with those students that are struggling. Targeted supports by grade level. Those are individual plans, those are tier 3, again, plans that will be put into place based on the individual student. And we have that working draft of our portrait of a graduate that we did for NEAS. So to continue to look at that, but to make sure that our instruction in our classrooms align with that portrait of a graduate. And then the last one that we added above the state's piece was the safe and supportive schools. So by the end of the 26-27 school year, we will see a reduction in behavioral incidents by 10%. So I put our current numbers there, and suspensions by 10% also are there. An increase in positive responses and school climate data across all stakeholders through targeted interventions, consistent progress monitoring and implementation of aligned school-wide discipline protocols, and feedback assessed through surveys. We have, we're working with the safe and supportive schools. That's one of the pieces that we're doing across our district. So I took that data and pulled it into here, and added a few things. So we're gonna implement aligned school-wide behavior and discipline protocols. And we're going to monthly build in very specific, sweating, I can't even see, audits, looking at our data and what's going on and drill down more, right? We look at it now, but really be specific about what's going on, the way we've dealt with it. Was there a change? What can we do different? That's the first piece. Part of our walkthroughs too, we'll be looking at the different behaviors, the way that they're being, like dealt, I don't wanna say dealt with, but like, what's going on in the classroom in those walkthroughs, just to get the perspectives of what we see in the classrooms, what we see in the hallways, just so we can see it, you know, everywhere and how we respond as a staff as a whole on all levels. And give surveys twice a year, for families and students and staff regarding the behaviors. implement student reintegration processes, so when kids come back, whether it's a trip to the office, whether they're in the office for behavior and they're going back to class, whether they're suspended and they're coming back into the building, however a student is, whatever the reason is why a student's out, look at our reintegration processes and, close that loop with wherever they're going back to. Have that follow through piece, because sometimes they go back, right? And that, you look at them and it's like, well, what's going on? Why are they here? So close that loop, have a process and a protocol on that reintegration process about how students re-enter.
Like a reentry meeting.
Re-entry, yes. And it'll be different for all of the different types of reasons why they've come out of the building or the classroom. Increase the consistency in the enforcement and follow through across teacher and administrative responses. So looking at it on two different levels. So starting at the admin level, regardless of which one of us is dealing with it, the consistency across all three of us and how we're responding. And also from classroom to classroom, how they're responding to behaviors, what consequences are being given on their level, on our level, so there's more consistency. So there's not that, well, it's okay here and it's not okay here. So looking at that piece, and that's another big piece of my protocols this summer, is to have that very clear cut what we're gonna do. And then increase the supervision and visible staff present during key times. So admin in different areas throughout the day and teachers in areas of influence through passing and those things. So be very specific of where everyone should be throughout the school days during key times. And build family transparency around discipline practices. Look at all of looking at all the different pieces. So track our participation rates in the events that we have at school, the communication logs to see, are we working with the families? Are they working with us? Surveys again to the family twice a year, and monitoring the website and handbook to ensure that behavior expectations and disciplines remain accessible and current. Like you said, I know I put it in my newsletter every week, but to continue to do that so it's there for all the families. And that's all.
I just have one comment. It's not really so much a question as a comment related to priority 4. And admittedly, I had this and didn't relay my feedback before now. Just a minor thing. I'm thinking of if the goal is to reduce behavioral incidents, it might be hard to also reduce suspensions. If your ultimate goal is to reduce behavioral incidents, sometimes your suspensions almost have to go, your enforcement has to be on point in order to extinguish whatever behavior it is that's happening. So that might be, it might be competing priorities there. But I understand the overall goal is to have kids in the building and be adhering to the expectations. That just might be a challenge at the outset, but the data will tell the story, I guess, right? Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Through the chair, the only thing I came to mind is when you talked about follow-up, because that seems to be the one thing that is forgotten, is that follow-up. And that's where you learn the most, what worked and what isn't working. So I hope you really concentrate on that part.
I've had some valuable conversations as of late with some brand new staff regarding this. And it just like you said, it really hit, certain things that weren't happening. So, or things that those of us that have been there for a while know that they don't necessarily know. And it's not just the new, but just in this instant that with these two staff, it was. So not to assume that the no is there, or just because it's an ed handbook that they know, to have the conversation.
Any other questions or comments?
Through the chair.
Member Flowers?
Thanks for answering all the questions I had before the meeting. That was really helpful just to kind of see where you were at. I think that I think that the data, the way you lay it out in the very beginning, is going to really tell your story, right? Is that you put that data on the top. And that's gonna be helpful as you move through. If you do that again next year and the year after, you're going to be able to see, you're gonna really be able to have a layout of whether this is working or not, through that data. So I think that's really beneficial, just like the layout of that and keeping up with that. So I thought that was great. I think the MCAS stuff is important because I think a lot of where students, especially students with multi-languages and cultures, a lot of the downfall is the questioning. And like test taking strategies there's lots of difficulty with that. Also with students with disabilities of not understanding test taking strategies where lots of kids demonstrate things in the classroom and then can't demonstrate it on the test. And the numbers are much lower because of that. So I think it's important to focus a little bit on that, which is why I asked about like, are you going to look into that a little bit? Because there is proven to be, where they're just not demonstrating what they know because the way the question is asked, they're not used to the way the question's asked. And so I think that's gonna be helpful for them moving forward, doing a little bit of that MCAS prep with them. And I really like the way that, I know with schools, it's really hard to keep up with, but I do like the way how you laid out when you're going to, the timelines for when you're going to do it, like when you're going to meet, when the committees are gonna be, and I think that's gonna be helpful for you to get it on your calendar at least, which I know things pop up, but at least kind of get that idea of how you're gonna follow through with it. I think that will be helpful. And
We already started our posters for daily, weekly,
Yeah.
monthly,
Yeah.
bi-monthly, and
Yeah.
twice a year, and the whole 9 yards. So that's already pulling from all the different plans and
Yeah.
language, because a lot of it does come together.
Yeah.
So we've started that already.
No, that's it.
It's really well done. I think it's very organized. It keys in on all of the areas that we need to be focusing on. And I want to compliment you for adding the safe and supportive schools, even though that's not something that we're necessarily mandated to do. It is something that we do need to continue to focus on as well. So, yeah, I'll go back here.
Through the chair, sorry, I have one more question, sorry. I was looking at the freshman data of the academic achievement about the percentage of students who are passing all their classes. Did that number go up or down since last year? That's what I thought, so.
We've decreased our failure
You,
number.
right, and,
Yes.
and so their achievement's going up
Correct.
this year, okay.
Correct.
And have you done anything differently to get ninth grade students kind of, I don't know, that transition from 8th grade to 9th grade? That is the reason why you saw it go up, just out of curiosity that you know of, or?
Is freshman seminar new?
Freshman seminar is new. This year we double blocked some of our freshman classes, so they went, both days all year long. A lot more tie-in just to our counselors,
Yeah.
with specific students that weren't, and watching those numbers from the very, very, very beginning versus after the first report card.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot more tracking early. Parent involvement, there was a lot.
Thank you, yeah, just wondering.
Can I add something? I'd like to say that students that came to Saturday school that were in danger of failing were able to recoup a
Sure.
lot, and that we didn't see as many Saturday school. So students that came to Saturday school and were invested in getting their work done and wanted to improve their grade had that opportunity, and I think we saw that also have an impact.
Perfect.
Ms. Davis, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but can you give us a couple sentences about what freshman seminar is for those watching or those who don't know what that is?
It's really
a big thing.
the difference between middle school and high school. So, the difference in schedules, the difference in what credits mean and passing a course versus not passing a course, really just what high school means from the beginning to the end. This year, moving forward, we have a MyCap curriculum that was provided to us that we're gonna institute. So it's a very structured curriculum on, study skills and again, just what it means to be in high school versus middle school, homework and just how to be a high school student.
Great. They've never done it before.
They've
when they
never
get to
done it
ninth grade, so it's good to, let them know what to expect. Great, thanks. Any other questions or comments from Ms. Davis?
Through the chair, because you brought it back. Brought up another question I had. I think that you really need to, with the new students coming in, talk about the difference between passing a class and getting credit. I don't think they're going to, they need to be able to understand that. Otherwise, a few months down the road, they're gonna be, well, I passed this.
That's their.
That's gonna be
attitude, yeah.
hard.
Yeah, no, it's even, no matter how much is done throughout the school year, it's still this first summer is when they first, oh my gosh, what do you mean I'm not a freshman, but I passed this, and that, yes,
Right.
but there's this much more you need to get there.
I hear there's a name for that. They're freshmores?
They're freshmen.
Yeah.
Yep. It's in between us.
Yeah. Well, don't be a freshmore. Any other questions or comments from the committee from Ms. Nieves? No.
No.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Bartlett High School Improvement Plan.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Coleros?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nieves. All right. The next item on the agenda, moving right down the line here, is the discussion and approval of the Webster Middle School Student Handbook. Good evening, Ms. Peterson.
Hello, everybody. Very limited changes this year as we did extensive realignment last year. The first one being the updated school committee counseling department rotates with their grade. And then we will be changing the assistant principal as we get a new person. Obviously, we added and changed the table of contents as things moved around. We added on page 7 some items to parent responsibilities. We added the special ed parent advisory committee information. And then one of the changes that you won't see in your packet tonight, but we will be also changing our grading scale to match the high schools. So while I feel like bringing F down to a 60 instead of a 65 is doing our students a little bit of a disservice, whereas we are working really hard to promote rigor and accountability. We do also feel like we need to be in line with the high school, and we did look at other local middle schools and they followed the 60. So we will change that.
Just to clarify, it would be a 59 would be the F, a 60 is an E minus.
Anything below a 60, yes. We did add some summer school information on page 13, being as we are never guaranteed to have summer school. So we did add some wording in there to make sure that parents and students know that that's not a guarantee. And then we added on the cover page, that should say meta glasses, not meta glasses. So I hope that on page 28, that says the same thing. I'll have to check that. That's technology that will not be allowed. And then blankets are not clothing, so we added that to the attire as well. Meta glasses is spelled correctly on page 30, which is technology. So we did put that in 2 places, as attire and as technology. And that's pretty much it in terms of some kind of bigger things other than spelling and editing checks there.
Any questions or comments? from the committee? Well, the committee's processing, I'll just jump in and address your comment, Ms. Peterson, about the rigor at the middle school. I fully support, I can only speak for myself, but having a high level of rigor for our middle school students and really all of our students. I was the one that gave the feedback about the failing grades at, over between 60 and 65 being an F. And falling out of alignment, not only with the high school, it falls out of alignment with most of the districts I could find in the area and even outside of our area. I think that we can have both things be true and, you know, have a passing grade at 60 or 61 and still not want students to be scoring there. So, hopefully we'll be able to continue to support those high expectations and level of rigor while still, you know, grading in alignment with other schools and districts. Thanks for making that change. Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Actually, I can't see where, I can't find where it is, I didn't write it down. I had a question about like the homework guidelines. As far as how many minutes per day and just how it was written. Can you guide me at all to what page that's on?
It's page 13.
Thank you, sorry. I'm like, I know. Oh, yes, I found it, okay.
13. So they are guidelines, they're not mandates.
Yeah,
So, you know, teachers do try to follow this with, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes there are things that might take longer. And, you know, quite frankly, I know most of our staff doesn't assign homework anyhow. With with AI now, it's really hard to ensure that students are actually doing their homework. You know, it was bad enough when parents would do it, now we have AI.
right,
So, you know, I think that teachers are kind of cutting back on what types of homework they're giving.
yeah,
You know, things that might take longer would be writing assignments, projects, things like that. And that's where we can look at guiding teachers to kind of chunk it a little
Mhm.
bit and, make, deadlines as opposed to, you know,
Yeah.
overnight kinds of things.
Yeah, I would say that in general, I think that, you know, it's hard to say that, you know, I think that I don't think that they're giving too much homework based on being a middle school parent, like the homework is. I think to have 80 minutes a night would be too much, you know, for most like kids who are student athletes or do things like that, they wouldn't be able to maintain it. And I think it would just make sense, I think just having the level of understanding that a lot of the homework that is happening, lots of times it's, if they didn't finish it, that becomes homework, and so that becomes part of like the students, you know, being able to time manage it, you know, if you're not doing the things in class, and yes, your homework is now going to be longer, and then it's hitting maybe that 60-minute mark where it's probably only assigned at the 30-minute mark, but
And we
otherwise.
have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no.
And we do, you know, if parents call and say, you know, it's taking my son
Yeah.
or daughters
You make
this
reasonable
long, and
adjustments.
we meet with them and try to figure out why.
Mhm.
And if necessary, you know, we look at cutting things back or saying, well, have them do, if it's a fifth grader, 50 minutes and stop. And then let's see where they get and call us and or email us and say, this is where 50 minutes was.
Yeah.
Cause, you
Yeah, that
know,
makes
really
sense.
it's about what the assignment
Quality,
is,
yeah.
not that you can do 100 math problems of the same thing over and over.
And then just the other feedback I would have is that, and as a parent, I find that your teachers are very up to date with grading.
Yes.
And I think that is extremely helpful. And when that power school comes up, everything is always graded and there and ready, and there's not a lot of, you know, misguidance on what their grade is. It's, you know, it when it comes, and I love getting that update. It's helpful to know what's going on. And so, as a parent, I really appreciate that the, you know, the middle school teachers are really getting those grades in really quickly, and that we're getting that feedback a lot, and it helps the parents kind of stay on top of that too.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
That is the expectation.
Yeah, I would agree with those sentiments for sure. And I like having the guidelines because I think it's sort of like, you know, we're not expecting students to have more than what's outlined here. And if they are, it sounds like
We
a
should reach out.
conversation, yeah. And I would hate for AI or anything else to stand in the way of kids having responsibilities outside of school. I know as a professional, I sometimes take work home with me, and that's a reality at times. And I think it is a good, healthy lesson, and whether it's pen to paper or a research project, there's plenty of things that our kids can be doing that either allows them to understand the responsible use of AI or forces them to think for themselves without being able to be augmented by that.
I think especially speaking from my own experience in math, it was always helpful to go home and be like, I don't know how to do it on my own, right? And like, it was good to get that feedback in class. You feel like you know what you're doing, and then when you step outside of class and have to do it on your own, it can be a different story, and that's really helpful to kind of really get kids to kind of push themselves to that next level. So even though, yes, I agree with the sentiment of even though AI is taken over, and I'm sure the kids won't agree, homework can be valuable. I think for kids to kind of practice on their own, and I think it's really helpful for parents to see what their kids are doing and to have that understanding of what's going on, and it helps with that link between them, so.
And I also, I think it's important for teachers to be thoughtful about what the
Yes,
homework
I
is,
agree.
as opposed to giving homework for homework.
Just to do it, yeah.
It needs to be, either preparation for the
Mhm.
class or to show some practice and follow-up, not just
Yeah.
busy work.
And yet again, teachers have to be more creative around it
Yes.
now again. That was it for me.
Any questions or comments?
I just have a little one. It's kind of a full pet peeve of my own. It goes for all the schools, especially high school and middle school. I don't live far from here, so I get an awful lot of students who walk by my house. And I'm seeing pajama bottoms and a lot of skin showing. And I'm wondering what's happening. Why? Because I know, I'm looking, you do have guidelines. And I know it's hard, and I know it's not at the top of the list. Believe me. There are other more concerning things, but it's still part of the handbook that you dress appropriately. So I just hope it's enforced a little bit more when it can be.
Now, are pajama bottoms excluded in the handbook? I don't recall seeing
Yeah,
that.
well, it says pajama.
I'm not a fan of seeing them either, but I don't think they're specifically.
They are in
excluded
fashion
the
right
handbook.
now.
They have pajamas here, so it's.
I know, as far as what that goes, when we get the messages from you, the pajamas are, because the pajama bottoms, some of them are sold as pants now, so it's really hard to see, like, when you go to stores.
I know, it's hard.
And so it's hard,
It
so
is
you
hard.
make a really nice thing of like, when you say, for the dress down, or for like Spirit Weeks or different things or whatever, no slippers, no blankets, and so you're kind of like saying like certain pajamas, because it's hard, I know with the pajama pants, you can't say they're pajamas, because they're sold in the regular
I know.
sections now, but I will say that I understand like that there is some things that you're like, definitely not, so that does go into the dojo messages anyway.
And now that you say that, I see kids were bringing blankets.
Yeah,
Well, that's gonna be added this coming school year.
yeah.
And that's
Put 'em in their
becomes a
school
new-
bag. Yeah, that's a new thing.
I don't need a
bag.
winter coat,
I
I
don't
have a
think it's-
blanket.
That's
Yes.
necessary.
Yes, that's everywhere.
And there are times when kids come to school and they might not be dressed appropriately, they get offered a sweatshirt or something to put on for the remainder of the day, and then they'll turn that in at the end of the day on their way home. So they're given items to cover up during the day,
I think
that might
that's a-
not
Yeah,
come with them. or-
Right.
You not see it.
and I think that's a better balance than sending them home. If they're at school, you want them at school, but appropriate.
Well, they usually get an option, call mom.
Yeah.
Or call
Or
somebody
where-
to bring me something, or you can put this on, there's usually multiple options.
And sometimes they leave dressed appropriately and
Don't show up that way.
change. I remember that.
I mean, this is not a new phenomenon. My mother in the sixties was a short skirt, so it's nothing, it's
just
just
a new
whatever is
fad.
the new thing in the year. Yeah.
Well, I would agree that society is changing and the standards for going outside of our house attire has certainly changed over the years. So we're adapting to the extent that we can. I like that both of the handbooks talk about, and I think you reference this in another context, but you should dress like you're going to your job because your education is your job as a student. And, it feels like we're providing guidance, education, so. All right. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the Webster Middle School Student Handbook? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Coleros?
Yes.
Member Millet?
Yeah.
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Peterson and the team for all the work that you all put into this handbook and supporting our kids. Good work. And the next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the Webster Middle School Improvement Plan.
Okay, so, like Ms. Nieves, well, unlike Ms. Nieves, she has a little different, high school year. Ours is a 3-year plan, but the measurable outcomes are, 1 year, to review. Our school improvement plan was originally, guided through our school council members. But then revamped once our systems of support kind of had to step in because of our standings. It was guided specifically through our district action plan and more specifically through our AIR reports and findings. So our priority number 1 is student achievement. And our actions are student oriented in making sure that we're using assessments and progress monitoring data to inform instructional planning, using grade level content and text, incorporating purposeful questioning and discourse. And so I know there was a question about where the staff is with this, and that is one of the reasons it is a goal, is because we are not fully there. We have pockets of teachers who do this regularly. We have pockets of teachers that are trying things sporadically, and we have pockets of teachers that still need even more help. So we will be, we have done professional development, but we are planning on more professional development in the 26-27 year. And then continuing, we are providing targeted scaffolds and supports that enable English learners and students with disabilities to engage successfully in grade level tasks. We will implement research-based tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And so where that happens is a couple different places, specifically in our 30 or 45 minutes, depending on what grade they're in, RTI blocks. And then we have spent some time with the scheduling, losing my words.
Cohort.
Scheduling cohort, thank you. Looking at our schedule, but what we are doing at the middle school is more changing what the classes look like. We're not changing our schedule per se. We are changing things that happen in the 90-minute block. And so we're kind of splitting that 90-minute block into a 60-30. So the first 60 minutes will be tier 1 instruction, and the last 30 will be more tier 2 and tier 3, so that the special education teacher and English language teachers can be in the classroom working with small groups or individuals, and hopefully eventually co-teaching, so that it just becomes that model. So I don't know if you want to add more to that, Dr. Mackay, or if I'm saying it clearly. Because in my head it sounds exactly right, but I want to make sure everybody understands that.
No, I think you're saying it clearly. I think that one of the big differences is that so we're not eliminating the, what's called that RTI block. That RTI block
Enrichment,
is still going to exist, but there were too many competing factors in that block, so kids weren't always getting everything that they need, because somebody might need 3 things that are happening at that same time. So we went back and looked at the block and how we should be incorporating tier 2 supports and at times tier 3 supports to every classroom, and not just necessarily waiting for the enrichment block. And so we'll be working quite closely with that. With the L department, we have made a shift already this year to incorporate more use of the ELA curriculum, so that there's greater opportunity for the teachers to plan together for paving the way for co-teaching, because one of my biggest pet peeves is when we call something co-teaching and it doesn't meet the standard of co-teaching. And so if we want to have inclusive opportunities for our students and we want co-teaching to happen in the future, then we need to make the structures available and also provide sufficient training to the teachers to be able to understand the shared responsibility, the shared planning, and the shared instruction that relationship that needs to take place. What we've seen is that simply having another person in the classroom, that is not co-teaching. So we want to build up to that. By aligning the supports into the block, we're approximating and making sure that we're calling it instructional cohesion, that we're making the instruction as cohesive as possible so that kids aren't getting 5 different experiences in one day based on the different supports that they need. So this step to do with 60-30 is a great first step for that.
I think that that's absolutely based on your numbers and everything, the absolute correct move to move towards is a co-teaching model. That makes a lot of sense, especially with your 90-minute blocks. It's like, that's actually a perfect way to get the supports involved. I think that's really the way to go. I think that it's a very long process. So you're right, with this is stage 1. It's difficult to finesse it just right, but it's the right thing to do anyway. How are you going to be involved with like implementation, and like, are you finding that, how are you getting the ELL teachers and the special ed teachers? How are you starting that integration process for them? Just like, so we can have an idea of what to expect on that.
So we actually already started the kind of getting the wheels turning back in April. So we've done some work in department meetings and looking at working on lesson plans together.
Great.
And comparing with other grade levels and seeing, because 5th and 6th, the dichotomy in our building, as you know, is that 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th. So it's middle school, junior high. And so, our middle school teachers are elementary certified. And so they have that elementary brain where they're doing 7 subjects, so they know how to do that.
Yeah.
So really having them kind of model for 7th and 8th grade teachers, what that can look like. So we've, again, already started that process. They're already thinking over the summer of what that can look like. One of our special ed teachers was in the cohort, so she's our lead, our instructional leader for that department, so she was really on board with this, and it was valuable to have her be a part of that discussion and be able to guide us in how we can help the teachers through that too.
That's great. I'm happy to hear you doing that. I think that's great.
And so continuing on, then we are monitoring implementation and effectiveness through classroom observations, lesson plan reviews, student work analysis, and data meetings. And so the goal is for admin and coaches to meet at least monthly with these teams. But it's probably going to be more than that, because the coach does meet weekly with the common planning teams. And then we also meet monthly with the department teams. So we expect to be monitoring that more than the minimum there. Our second priority is safe and supportive learning environment. We want to demonstrate an increased sense of belonging, engagement, and responsibility in the classroom. So we are hoping to build inclusive classroom communities, implement instructional strategies that promote student participation, and provide multiple pathways for learning. We want to promote student and staff participation in extracurricular activities. You know, I always promote this, especially to our new fifth grade parents, that middle school is the time to really explore and let your children try everything they want to, because it's a time where they can do a lot of things. You know, eventually they're going to have to pick and choose, but middle school, they don't have to pick and choose that much. We offer band and chorus. They can do a sport and an after-school activity, or the play and a sport. So the teachers and staff members, that they work really well together, allowing that to happen, knowing the development of middle school students. One of the things that we can do to kind of put things out there a little bit more is at open house, have pamphlets or foldouts available for parents to see, because sometimes the parents need to push their kids a little bit to join things, or a slideshow. We always have the coaches present at lunches when sports come around, but we could amp that up a little bit too. So looking at ways to put more out there. We'll continue to examine our daily attendance of students and continue to conduct regular attendance review meetings. I think one of our focuses, our attendance is really improved if you look at the data, but the area that we definitely need to improve on, like the high school, is tardiness. So we need to beef that up a lot. We are going to establish, implement, and consistently reinforce clear routines, restorative practices, and targeted supports. Specifically, that restorative practices piece is another area that the staff will need professional development on. And then later on, we also talk, like the high school, about re-entry processes. Continue to build positive relationships, implement student reintegration processes following any time away from the classroom, and develop a multi-tiered system of support for behavior and social emotional learning. Specifically, this piece, we want to look at implementing a universal screener for social emotional well-being. It's easy to spot the children who are having some difficulties, or knowing the families that might be having difficulties, but we miss those quiet kids that hold things in. And so by doing a universal screener, we can hopefully get more from that. And then I see that I have misnumbered here, so this should be school priority number 3, not number 4, because we combined a couple actually, so I will change that. And so school priority number 3 is consistent communication with families. We want to increase attendance at school events and participation in conferences, responses to school communications, and family survey data. So we are hoping to foster meaningful partnerships with families through two-way communication and opportunities for collaboration. We want to continue and expand the conducting of in-person meetings. While we know that's not always feasible for parents who have the same work schedule as we do, at least presenting Zoom meetings so that you can have again, that discourse with families is just as important as the students having discourse in the classroom. Utilizing a variety of platforms to communicate with families, and plan a variety of school events that reflect family interests and needs. This is where we're hoping to get the family liaison involved more in planning and implementing. Maybe hoping that we can expand the academic nights. We've done a lot with kind of getting parents in to celebrate and off campus with our bowling, our taco night. Now we need to get them into the building and talk about academics. So we're hoping to get to that level. And that is our school improvement plan.
Through the chair.
Member Polaris?
Sorry, I just have, a couple quick questions on priority number 2. On the safe and supportive learning, goal. One of them being, as far as, well, I'll start with the comment that there's lots of, universal screeners that are already established and work really well if, rather than, obviously you don't have to establish your own. So I think that will be easy to implement. So I think that's a great first step. Because there's lots of them out there that work really well to start. And then my next question is, as far as, are you doing any kind of tier 2 support that's similar to the high school, like a check-in, check-out, or anything like that, that might be supportive for middle school?
It's not in the improvement plan because we already do it.
Yeah, but you already have that
Yes.
under, okay, that's what I thought. I just kind of wanted to double check.
Yeah.
Sure. And then how often or do you have a schedule of looking at behavioral infractions and kind of looking at that and teasing out with like your admin, just kind of tracking and looking at that and figuring out what students are coming up as concerned?
We don't have a schedule per se, but we probably should. I mean,
Yeah.
we review it daily.
Yeah,
It's very easy with
Mhm.
our educator's handbook. I mean, it pops right up
Sure,
on our
so you're-
screen.
yeah.
I can see the kid every day who's at the top. But I think that I think that we probably should have a schedule to meet with the counselors and admin.
Yeah.
To see, I can see it, but what
Yeah.
are we doing
Yeah.
about it?
Can I add something to that? With the rethinking discipline funds this year, we also created an additional sort of PBIS meeting, because the PBIS team was also looking at the data.
Yeah.
But we created an additional meeting where we established or we learned a protocol to address the data in Ed Handbook. And so it is our hope that we are able to continue that with a schedule on a more consistent basis
great.
and kind of generalize that protocol to not just Ed Handbook, but other like school climate or other things like that, so that we have responses to data.
Great, thank you.
Are you looking for me to add that in
Yeah,
here?
I was just wondering, I had to get that, it just. I think it looks great.
I actually kind of wonder why you don't take credit for the check-in, check-out if
Yeah.
you're already doing it though.
I think,
Because this is some way that we want to improve. It's not what we're
Oh, I see
doing
what you
now,
mean.
it's what
Sure.
we need to
New.
do.
Well, it's not addition, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Webster Middle School was the first to implement check-in,
That's what I
check-out
thought,
through
so,
the
yeah.
PBIS structures of tier 2.
Mhm.
And so it is something to celebrate that
Yes.
you're doing that. But I understand,
Yeah.
the reasoning not to include it.
I understand the reasoning, but it's, yeah. You could flex it though in there, right? Continue to monitor our check in, check out.
I have a couple questions, if I may. Regarding priority 2, I'm curious how you'll measure that first measurable outcome. Student belonging surveys will show a 10% increase. Do you have baseline data for that yet, or are you going to conduct those surveys at the beginning of the
We'll
year?
have to conduct them at the beginning of the year, because we don't have even though we have done. Well, we do have some, but I think my thinking is that we want to start at the beginning of the year with fresh data. Because we would probably be changing the questions based on the SAS team.
Yeah, so the PBIS system has some school climate survey, school climate and belonging surveys already done. Webster Middle School has taken most of those questions and created a Google Doc form, like a Google form. But it is our recommendation that all the schools utilize for the grade levels that are going to be collecting that data. Because the system gives you graphs, it gives you, like, it breaks down a lot of information that you would have to do on your own, that way. So we don't, when I was nodding my head yes, that we already have some of the data. It's because we have a few years worth of data. And so collecting the beginning of the year is standard, so we'll do a beginning of the year to collect baseline for that year. But then we can compare it across years already, because we've already collected, at least at Webster Middle School, a few years worth of data.
Yeah, I wonder if beginning of the year data will somehow not not be an accurate reflection of how kids really feel during the school year, because it's like either they don't know their teacher yet or still the honeymoon period, I'm not really sure.
But then we have growth.
Right, well, but is it real?
If at the beginning of the year, they don't feel like one of the greatest questions is, do you have a trusting adult? Like, is there a trusted adult that you can go to if you have a concern?
In the
And
building?
in the building.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the year, sure, many kids, especially if they're new to the building, fifth graders,
Right, they may not.
may not.
Yeah, and then
And
that's really-
so the fact that they if nobody develops that trusting relationship by the next time we collect the data, then we have a lot to be worried about.
Mm.
But if that number increases, then we've created an environment where kids acquire a new trusted adult, especially in that critical transition.
Mhm.
So I think it's okay, that's typical for baseline.
I agree. I thought we were measuring students feeling valued in their classroom.
It's all concluded in this very long survey for students. It asks a whole bunch of different questions about classroom, about school, about peers, about themselves, so.
Should I change classroom?
I mean, or either change or add to it, because I'm hearing two things, right? I'm hearing having a trusted adult in the building and feeling valued in their classroom. And I think those are really two different experiences. Because I may have a trusted adult that I have in the building that I feel really good about, that I can go to this unified arts teacher and check in with them, and maybe if I'm not feeling great in my classroom, that's still worthy data.
I just wonder if it's too specific for the category, so the broader categories increases in positive responses. I don't have it in front of me.
In the classroom,
It's
it
a
does.
sense of belonging.
So so it can be in the classroom, and you can just might add around the school. Because it does collect more than just in the classroom.
You already have those data points.
Yeah.
And I think while it's noteworthy to see if kids are establishing those relationships from the beginning of fifth grade to the middle, it's also helpful to know if we're trending to having more students in our building over the course of, say, like 5 years. So like it's different kids. Are more kids feeling connected now than they were several years ago, even though it's different students? So that's interesting to think about as well. I just had something about number 3 also, and by the way, before I go on, I just wanna say the goals are really aggressive, which I like. And, you know, I'm excited to see where you go with them, overall, all around, right?
While you think of it, I'll have, if you mind if I
Yeah.
jump in, some unsolicited advice that you do not have to add, but I was just thinking about when you're talking about like the after-school clubs and promoting them and all of that. I wonder if it would help to do some sort of inter-survey to help teachers have an idea of what kind of clubs that they might want to do. If you do like an interspace survey with the kids of what they might be interested in, and that might be helpful in just kind of figuring out how to get kids to stay for clubs and what kind of clubs might be that they might be more apt to stay after school to do.
I mean, it is always open for, and students do come forward and say, I want to do this club, but again, you have those kids who aren't
Just
gonna
gonna
say,
say, yeah.
yeah. So, yes, that would be a good idea.
But again, not that you have to add it, just a thought.
Yeah, middle school, I agree, does a great job of having a club for almost anything. If a student can dream it
Yeah.
and a staff is available, it's going to happen, so.
As long as it's safe. We did have an unsafe one that I had to deny.
So going back to the consistent communication with families, I would just share that there's a lot of great things going on at Webster Middle School. And certainly we do want to ask parents to come in person when we need to talk about attendance, academics, and social emotional well-being, for sure. But I think the hope would be that we have already had some ongoing two-way positive communication leading up to that, so that there's a relationship. And, families are feeling like we're coming at this from a place of mutual care and concern for their student, right? And even thinking of my kids and what they've brought home over the last few weeks, especially my middle schooler, I've been floored with some of the projects that they've done and assignments that he's completed that I hadn't seen until now. And that's okay, because they did great work, but, you know, it's great work. And if he had trashed it before he got home, I would have never known all the great things he did. So I think there's a lot to celebrate, and the more parents can hear about some of the great things that are going on, the more they'll appreciate all the work that you and your team do. You have great teachers there.
Can add something.
Overall, I think this is great. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Webster Middle School Improvement Plan with some minor adjustments that Ms. Peterson's gonna make based on this late feedback.
So
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please poll the committee?
Member Caleros?
Yes.
Member Millet?
yes,
Trustee Lee?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Peterson, and your team. I know it's a lot of work. The next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the Park Avenue Elementary School Student Handbook.
All right. Hello, my turn. So we had quite a few changes this time around in our handbook. Some of them were just changes in wording to kind of match what we're doing, some moves of things, etc. So just starting off from the beginning, we had our typical change in the table of contents. Some changes to our staffing. We'll be changing our assistant principal when we finalize that process, updating school year dates. Staffing will all be updated through the year. On page 10, we just kind of updated some of the means of communication. We often have parents sending communication for dismissal through Dojo and whatnot, and teachers are teaching, they're not at their computers checking email, so really trying to remind parents about how to communicate. We did some changes in order of the attendance information, just for continuity, there were no wording changes. We got some information on breakfast in the classroom from our food services. Some lunchtime communication here. So last year, we kind of piloted a start at the beginning of the year, having students come in from recess, so they have recess before lunch. And we piloted having them come in silently for the start of lunch, and then allowing them to talk once they're seated and have their lunch. And it really helped bring the kids down from recess. They come very high level, as anybody who's been in the lunchroom after recess sees. So it really, trying to talk over 150, 140 kids down to a decent level is a lot harder than letting them come up to a discussion level. So we have put that in this year just to help them regulate when they come in from recess. So while it will start out kind of probably up to 5 minutes, we anticipate that cutting down quite a bit by the time the school year gets going. So then we just kind of put in some of our processes for getting student attention and some of the expectations within the lunchroom. Some information about updated contact information. We did update our PBIS. I'm on page 15 now. We updated quite a bit of our PBIS language just to match some of the work that the PBIS team has been doing.
kind of what the purpose of PBIS is, how we handle different situations around the school, how we acknowledge positive behaviors. 16, we have a change in format in our expectations. So this just, rather than breaking it down by setting, originally it had setting and then what safe looked like, what responsible looked like, what respectful looked like. We've changed it to safe and what it looks like in all the settings, just because this is more in line with current PBIS materials that we've been using. We have some Corey language. We do have a small bit of language on dress code, but we actually don't have a lot on dress code, kind of intentionally. The age, some of the things that go into dress code that can start to veer off into discriminatory language. So there was a question about dress code, so I'm going to research some pieces on dress code, but I think we have to be cautious when we're looking at dress code and thinking about who is targeted within dress code and ensuring that it stays non-discriminatory.
Can you tell me more about what you mean by that?
Sure. So a lot of dress codes that I've seen, and I haven't reviewed the high school and middle school, so I'm not referring to those, talk about what can show and what can't show on various, really, I find that they're very often geared towards women and what is appropriate for females to wear. Or there can be dress codes that limit hairstyles and whatnot. And granted, I know we've kind of really been intentional about ensuring that we don't have those. I do want to be very thoughtful about what I put into a dress code. We have a lot of students who wear their hoods within their classrooms for various reasons, whether it's sensory related. We don't have issues with kids wearing headphones under their hoods, sensory related, bad haircut related, safety and trauma related. And sometimes when you put that into a handbook, it can create power struggle versus relationship building. And I think it's important to create safe and supportive environments where students take their hoods off because they feel safe and supported within a classroom versus they're being told by an adult to do it with no consideration for who they are and what they need. But I know there was some feedback about additional dress code language, so I was going to research some other elementary school dress code pieces. Sometimes we also have dress code issues because kids have outgrown their clothes. And that, you know, it's sometimes it can be hard to insist that a student have the appropriate clothes. So we do have changes of clothes in the office for them to put on if they're uncomfortable. Yeah, we're really just trying to make sure that the learning environment stays safe and supportive for all of our students all the time. So as is noted here, add a subheading guidelines, so we may add in, once I can kind of examine some other dress code samples for elementary schools, add in some guidelines. Oh, my computer is about to die. We had some additional changes from the nurse, some additional language from the nurse there. We did remove some of the language that kind of directed parents on how to be at home, like how to speak to your child and what to ask them and talk about at the day. So we kind of eliminated some of that additional language about ask what was the best part of the day and why. Call the school whenever you need to share information, or please feel free to call the office whenever you feel the need for information or to share ideas. So we have a lot of different avenues for communication. So those are outlined elsewhere in the document. We deleted the general rule of thumb for homework, the 10 minutes, a lot of research for younger students disputes the academic advantages for our youngest students. But we do say that teachers are making those decisions as far as what is appropriate for them to provide for homework if needed. So teachers use their professional judgment. For on page 29, we deleted the Peaceful Playground program as we don't officially utilize the Peaceful Playground program anymore. Although we are through our 21st century program, kind of expanding that through the summer work that one of the teachers is intending on doing and bringing some additional playground work in. But we didn't feel ready to put that in as this is how our playground works. We added some information about when we do have recess, how we make those decisions about when they're indoors or outdoors. I got rid of the picture of Foursquare, although we do have Foursquare out there. Students are learning to use Foursquare.
It's a game on a piece of playground.
Oh, yeah.
Is it still the Peaceful Playground?
We do still call it that,
Okay.
yes. We need a name. We updated our CPAC language as provided by special ed service, our special ed department. We added information about all students participate in MCAS. We have not instituted, and so some students do have cell phones at the elementary school. We have very little issue with students having them out. It is expected that they are away and off in their backpack. Superintendent Perangeli had talked to me about instituting the yonder pouches at my building. It's not necessary. It's not a issue enough to make that, to need to do that. Some information about school buses, transportation. We do require parents to meet them at the, parents to meet children at the bus. I did add in quite a bit about car line arrival, just because that is a big process within our building, both for arrival and drop off. So I wanted there to be very clear guidelines in there because I often, not often, I sometimes have to address parents about what that process needs to look like and how they come into the driveway area. So I wanted that clearly outlined for families. Just on 35, just letting parents know that bus drivers may add assigned seating. We had some information about volunteers. So we did delete and change the, going up one, the steps of the, bus, if there's a bus issue, just because, we're handling them, calling parents and whatnot, meeting with the parent and student on the first report is not feasible. We do always call the parents and talk to them about it, but, and we rarely move to removal of a student from the bus. We have a lot of intermediate steps, such as assigning seats or riding the bus with the students. So, we rarely need to remove a student from the bus. There has been times it's gotten to that point, but we really need to, and we obviously try not to. We know that that is a big hardship on families. Some information about volunteering if they're interested. And yeah, a lot of like small language pieces, just we hadn't really updated or looked at a lot of the language in a long time, so there's also just a lot of repetitive things that we felt the need to take out. And that's it.
Questions or comments from the committee?
Through the chair.
Yes, Member Flores?
I thought for the most part, I felt like all your changes were extremely thoughtful. I'm a sucker for matrices. I love them. I thought they looked great. And I would say in general, Park Ave's car line, while long, is extremely safe, really. Like the way it's done is extremely safe and they have a long history of just, you know, I have sat in that car. I've had many audiobooks in that car line. So, but it is the right thing to do. So I applaud you with sticking with it because it is the right thing to do for the kids.
Right.
It's a very safe car.
Yeah.
line. It is correct. It is correct. And so I know you get a lot of gruff, I guess, from car line.
It gets
But-
very difficult in the winter.
Yep.
When the road, when Race Street gets a
Yeah.
bit skinnier, and especially this winter with so much
So
snow.
much snow, yeah.
But
unprecedented.
we've kind of looked at where else it could possibly go or how else it
It's
could
the right way.
possibly
When they used to do it the other way, it was so much
It was
worse.
so much
Yeah, the way that it's done is so much better now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could imagine. But I thought the car line, I know you get a lot of gruff, but you're doing the right things on car line. It's very safe. It's very good the way it's.
I think people have just adapted to.
They have no choice, and that's okay. One question I had, and I'm gonna be sorry, because this is late, and so it's probably a bigger conversation and probably more of a conversation with the superintendent, and probably not for this year, because I know it's something, but just thinking about with the hold-in places and the lockdowns and incorporating a lot of the stuff that you've learned. I know that you guys went to trainings with all the local officials. And so again, I know that that's something you're working on district-wide, and so it's not going to be in there yet, but maybe planning about that for the following year to make sure that you're incorporating the new information that you have as you're starting to kind of do those things to make sure that we're on, you know what I mean, just kind of putting that in there. And then I know it said like Alice training, but I know what you did was a little different than that.
Yeah, and I don't know that would actually change what's in the
Yeah.
handbook. What she's talking about is the drill that we went to with the, the desktop, the table.
Yeah,
tabletop.
but maybe adding that, because I
Yeah.
think that is a really important piece, and I know you're still working on it, so I'm not saying that it has to be now, but just thinking about adding that in like district-wide of like your plans for like emergency plan response.
Mhm.
That would go into the handbooks in general. And then would you say, and you're still following the Alice training, that's what you're
Yes.
doing? at
Yes,
the
but we
elementary
don't,
school?
it's not
I know.
suggested that kids practice.
I know,
the
so it's
Alice
really
training at
hard,
this
cause like,
age.
what's the,
Right,
what do
right.
you do instead?
Right.
Like, nobody's come out with anything, so
Right,
you're doing like watered
exactly.
down versions of Alice to try to,
Right.
right, yeah.
It's really about the adults. We
Yep.
do our training.
Train the adults to do
around
it.
the adults.
And then the hold in places, is that still happening in, what is the hold in place procedure at the elementary school in general? Like, what is?
So in a non-emergency,
Yes.
because we do use holds in places in non-emergencies. If a student is dysregulated and needs to move to a different space.
And does the
So
hold in place, does that go over the loudspeaker?
It does, yep. There's a hold in place on floor.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yes, just because we have so much movement throughout the
Yeah.
building. We have kids coming up from lunch or from different specials that may be going to that floor.
Yeah.
So, without doing it over the loudspeaker, there's really no other way to inform the number of people that need to know.
You don't have walkies?
Everybody in the
everyone.
building
Not
doesn't have
everyone, like a
walkies.
teacher or something.
Yeah.
Or
We have
lunch aid.
specific support staff who have walkies, or certain classrooms that have walkies, but all of our, oh boy, we can barely communicate with just the number that have walkies. So if 120 staff had walkies. We've actually cut it down because the walkies were rather disruptive when you have that many throughout the building.
Yeah, I think that in general, if there's any way to guide students in a different direction rather than the intercom, I think that that's a better practice. Just because it can be disarming to kids to hear it so often. And I know that that's what you're saying is not wrong. It's almost near impossible because there's so many moving parts, but just being, and I think in general, your handbook was very thoughtful. So just kind of considering being thoughtful about those as well, which I'm sure you are, but just
Yeah,
as
and like I said,
feedback.
that's why we have reduced the number of walkies throughout the building,
Yeah.
because that was also
Distracting,
very
yeah.
disruptive
Yeah.
and at times alarming.
Yes,
things
kids
like
hyper
that
focus on
to
it.
students. Yeah, but it's that matter of weighing
Yeah,
out student
the-
safety and dignity
Mhm.
and,
Yep.
and
Yep.
informing people.
Yeah.
And it's
To go
not
into-
even so much informing people what's going on.
Yeah,
It's just, don't come out into the hallway
Mhm, yeah.
because this student is having a difficult time and we want to respect their privacy.
And at Park, if I could add, at Park Avenue, the hallways, on the hallways kind of go like, so like you can't, it's not a straight shot, you can't see down the hallway, entirely, because it does a little bit of a turn. And I think one of the biggest issues during holds in place is keeping kids from going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So, and we have one bathroom location on a very long floor.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you can keep kids, like half the kids can go down that way and half the kids can come this way. So it's one of those like unfortunate
Yeah.
things that we have, like
Necessary.
necessities that we have to do.
And I did actually get feedback also on the grading, grading language, so that will be something we will add in about our, we have, standards-based grading. So,
yeah.
the scale and how those decisions are made based on, standards, priority standards at each grade level. So we will add that in.
I have just two other points. This one's very minor, page, I think it's 34. Just the wording here, and I noted it and then didn't include it in my feedback. It's the last bullet point about Carline. It says, do not drop your child off on Ring Street. Only once you are in the driveway and a staff member has signaled it's safe to do so. Maybe it feels fragmented, just, do not drop your child off on Ring Street. You get that, right? And then maybe your child should only exit the vehicle once you're in the driveway and a staff member has signaled that it's safe to do so, something like that.
Oh,
Just for
yeah,
clarity.
so, right.
Because we're still not dropping them off once they're in the driveway.
So, maybe I'll just put that bullet to be last.
Maybe,
And because I think I already said, wait with your child in the vehicle until signaled to let your child out.
oh,
Yeah.
so maybe that,
So I
the
can
rest
get
of it's
rid of-
unnecessary, it's just
yeah.
not super clear.
Yeah. Well, Phil, yep. We like turn our backs and start heading in and don't look up, don't look up.
Don't make a thumbs up,
contact.
out you go. And then just going back to the dress code for a
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
I think you'll be pleased to know that this committee worked at length with particularly Bartlett in the middle school years back to be very thoughtful about not targeting any specific genders or races or ethnicities through our dress code and our handbook. So there was a lot of work done
Yeah.
to be
Right.
sure that felt inclusive
Mm-hmm.
and it felt that expectations for not showing underwear, for example, applied to both genders. And we removed some things about head coverings and things that felt like they could be perceived to be targeting different ethnicities or races and things like that.
yeah.
So we've done a lot of
Right.
work with that, and you probably have two very good models that are targeted toward much older audiences.
Right.
My thought was more so around having some guidelines in place before you have an issue, helps you work through that issue much faster when it eventually will come up. And it was never in the spirit of disciplining or something like that. But if we do have a midriff showing because a third grader has outgrown their clothes, maybe we want to know that so we can help them and get them
Right.
some clothes
And
for
those
the
are
day and later, because they
Right.
probably don't feel any more comfortable, like that anyway,
Right.
so.
Yeah, and that's
It's
often the
from a place of support.
conversation
Yeah.
with the student, you know? So it's definitely more of a support.
Yeah,
Are you comfortable? Because sometimes you can tell that the students are not. And so it just leads to well, let me help you with that
yeah,
conversation.
and that can feel really, I think, I don't know if the word is affirming, but it can make a student feel really seen and supported in those situations too, so.
But I do find that sometimes when things are in the handbook like that, they start to be interpreted as disciplinary rather than supportive.
You'll have to work with your staff on that part, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's a good measure to have in place, I think, for parents to know what the expectations are for sending their kids into the building, but obviously age appropriately. As long as it's not homework. Any other questions or comments regarding the Park Avenue Elementary School Student Handbook? Hearing none, we have some suggestions for revisions. I think the desire is to approve this with the expectation that those revisions take place. Is that okay with the committee? So I'll entertain a motion to approve this Park Avenue Elementary School Student Handbook with the revisions that we discussed.
So,
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Calero,
Yes.
Member Millet.
Yeah.
Chair Siddiqui.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Poliafico,
Thank
to you and
you.
to your team. It's a lot of work.
The last is hard.
Right.
What's the next?
So the next item on the agenda is the review and approval of the Park Ave Elementary School Improvement Plan.
Okay. So I did not put, a lot of, values in here, number values. You'll see I was kind of using the strategic plan, values that were there. There were some very specific, percentages outlined within the, strategic plan. Additionally, collecting data, both here at the end of the year, so I have a family survey that is slated to go out at the close of the year about a lot of the topics that are in here. And then collecting student data at the beginning of the year. So our first goal is create safe, supportive, and inclusive school environment. So we, much like the other schools, we are looking to really create strong processes and procedures for expectations around the building within a code of conduct that are aligned with district policies and restorative practices. So this summer, that is a lot of the work that my admin team will be doing, is creating a draft of that code of conduct that will then, throughout the year, we will gather feedback from staff and families, as opposed to spending a year writing something and drafting it. We felt it would be better to have a working copy that we can then receive feedback on. So creating some feedback structures, both with families and staff, and some of those feedback structures are listening sessions or focus groups with the grade level teachers to gather information about how it's working, what's clear, what isn't, and then coming back together as an admin team so we will be meeting in smaller groups for those feedback loops, and then being able to come back together and make adjustments according to feedback. So we will also be strengthening our data systems connected to specific behavioral outcomes. We do have systems, much like what was discussed. We have the PBIS team up and running that examines educator handbook data. We've really been piloting that system for the end of the year, as it just got up and running maybe 2 months ago. So we've been piloting it and have been very happy with what we've seen. Originally, the goal was to run those data teams and then give that information back to the PBIS team to develop plans for addressing some of the concerns that have come out of the data. But we really see opportunity to spread it to grade level teams and school-wide as well, those processes. So when we say we're strengthening our data systems, that's one of the examples of strengthening them. And then being able to create action plans to address those areas for improvement. So our system does a very nice job of breaking down where things are happening, when things are happening, in what classes, et cetera. So being able to utilize that to really target the areas that need more attention and changes to our processes and procedures for addressing them. Additionally, we will also be looking to strengthen our social emotional learning opportunities through classroom lessons, morning meeting, and counseling supports. Currently, our counselors deliver our SEL lessons within the classrooms with the teachers present. So it is meant to be a co-teaching model so that the classroom teachers are also learning the material and can follow that through. I have seen a need to strengthen that collaboration and be more intentional about what are those lessons that are carrying through. I know our assistant director of student services has been working with counseling on their curriculum maps around SEL. And so one of the things I have talked to her about is creating focus areas. So from those lessons, what are the focus areas? What is the language? What are we looking for students to be utilizing outside of that SEL lesson? Because when it's just in isolation and it's only happening within that class, we know we need to see it happening elsewhere. So whether the lesson is being a good friend, our focus for this week is being a good friend, everybody look to really give some positive feedback on that. So making sure we are communicating that school-wide so everybody knows the SEL focus. Teaching, modeling, and reinforcing behavioral expectations. We do already do that, but just ensuring that we are consistently, again, using our data from our educator handbook PBIS teams to make sure we are targeting and improving our expectations as needed. Increasing our training around morning meeting structures. So the expectation right now is to hold morning meeting each morning, which is a responsive classroom structure. But I want to grow our staff's kind of a knowledge and ability to use it intentionally within the classroom. So it goes beyond a greeting of turning and saying hi to your neighbor, which is really important, building that classroom community, but also starting to develop it as a way to talk about struggles that the classroom might be having, really starting to utilize that structure that we have to incorporate some restorative circle work that we already have the structures in place to be doing that. So that can, by giving our teachers some training in holding those morning meetings more intentionally, I think we can really grow the meaningful, purposeful use of morning meetings. And then additionally, conduct regular safety climate reviews using student, staff, and family feedback. And strengthening opportunities for collaboration with our behavior coach and providing opportunities for peer observation. So we really want to grow the idea that we can be in each other's classrooms and learn from each other with the support of a coach as well. Because it's important to have somebody visiting with you so you can process what you're seeing. So, and all of this, the intention of all of these things are to improve safety and climate within the building. And I think starting out with being very clear about our processes and procedures around classroom setups, classroom structures, and disciplinary procedures, both at the classroom level and the admin level, and bring it all the way back to teachers being able to visit each other's classrooms and learn from each other and start to grow that. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to do one goal at a time? I forgot what, I'm so long ago, I forgot what.
I think you're fine.
Okay. So the next piece is establishing shared expectations for inclusive instructional practices. We see a real need that, as has been one of our goals, to ensure equitable access to high quality learning experiences for all students. So we will, by the end of the year, all instructional staff will implement shared research-based instructional practices that support student engagement, differentiation, and academic growth. So starting with developing, communicating, and monitoring what those school-wide practices are, things like examples of sheltered English and SEI strategies, as well as scaffolds and supports. It's been a focus of our walkthroughs. We've seen a need to increase that. So we will be focusing on being very explicit about what those are and what they should look like in the classroom. We already have structures in place that have our L teachers and our special education teachers working collaboratively with our grade level teachers. So we really want to continue to grow those partnerships, and grow the ownership of classroom teachers, for those types of supports, being guided by the special education and L teachers. So along with all of this is providing professional development in these strategies. I think we have a lot of strong staff within the building that can provide, whether it's faculty meeting, professional development, or during our half days, being able to provide the professional development. We want to continue to increase the use of student discourse, scaffolded support, formative assessment, and move into checks for understanding. That was our third component of our instructional priority. As we had all discussed, we may not get to all three. We had quality questioning and student discourse, and checks for understanding was our third one. We will be pushing forward with our checks for understanding at the elementary school. Again, strengthening our data system. So we do currently we have lots of different pieces of data coming in. We have iReady and Dibbles coming in that we use to track student growth over the year, and really looking at where the students started and where they grow to. But using our Wonders progress monitoring and our Eureka quizzes, and really collecting that data and looking at it as teams. So we've done a lot with our Wonders progress monitoring and our writing assessments, and looking at those as an ILT, and looking at our growth and action plans around that. We need to expand that to our Eureka quizzes and establish a process for collecting that data school-wide. So, and ensuring that all of our students broken down into our subgroups are also reaching grade level expectations. And then we are also seeking to strengthen our instructional coaches' work with our teachers by utilizing our evaluation process to really leverage the coach to grow our teachers as well. Goal 3 is our improved literacy achievement. We need to move our students forward in literacy, absolutely, in our early literacy. So we really took a close look at our Dibbles data this year, looking forward, and we pulled out some very specific strategic areas to focus on that are kind of the high leverage points for early foundation literacy. Obviously, it's all important, but when we're looking at specific areas to grow our students, we want to look at our phoneme segment for kindergarten, for first grade, our nonsense word fluency and correct letter sounds. And then for second and through fourth grade, our oral reading fluency. So those are really the key sort of leverage points for improving our students' reading. So we will use that beginning of the year data to set some very aggressive expectation goals. We're also looking to increase our grade level performance measured through iReady. So we'll start at the beginning of the year, looking at our data there and looking at where they are at the beginning of the year. We do need to also strengthen our tier 1 and our tier 2. We need really to strengthen both of those pieces for our instruction, our literacy instruction, focused on acceleration. So we really need to be providing in the moment interventions and ensuring that we are giving the students what they need as soon as they start to fall behind, which happens in our tier 1 and then brings us to our tier 2. We need to strengthen our tier 2 instruction, which we have been doing a really good job. We have a what I need, a win block, a what I need block, and we split the students into various groups based on what their data is telling us they need strengthening in. But now we need to ensure that we are using, for all of our groups, evidence-based interventions. So with that, we will be evaluating what we have available for programs. So we have a lot of different programs throughout the building, and we need to create a database of those programs and ensure that we are assigning students to the correct program for what they're meant to focus on. And then additionally ensure that our teachers have the training they need to appropriately deliver those interventions.
Through the chair.
Can I ask a question
Yes.
specifically about that piece? I'm just wondering, do you have grade level wise or however you do it, do you have cutoffs for when kids, what number is the number where they go into certain intervention groups? How many weeks do they get? Like, what's the number to get out of that intervention group, and kind of like how that rotation works?
Yes, so they're the kids that are in more of our yellow, more of our below, are getting regularly progress monitored, and there are cutoffs for when they start to make progress.
Okay.
And the interventions last about 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay,
Um,
and who's looking at that data typically?
The coach
Yeah.
and the assistant principal, Jess.
Mhm.
Miss O.
Yep.
Along with the teachers.
Okay.
So they have, when, at the end of that rotation, we use a common planning time.
Okay.
For the whole team to look at all of that data and start to decide
Mhm.
what makes sense for the kids.
Perfect, thank you.
Ms. Pouliot, just a follow-up question to
Yeah.
that. Do you have an idea now of what percentage of students are receiving interventions or are, trying to find the wording here, within the strategic performance band on grade-specific sub-tests?
I can look that up.
I don't want you to tell it to me
Dibbles,
now.
yes, but we have that,
You have
we
that
do have
information.
that information, yes, yep.
And there's a new feature that we want to investigate in Open Architect that actually is an intervention tracker. And so, because I often get asked, like, of the students that received intervention, who's making progress and who's not making progress, and short of doing things manually, we do a
Which is
lot of
where we
things
have it,
manually. It would be nice to track that.
Yeah, for sure.
And that is where we have it in just a giant spreadsheet. I mean, we have
Yeah,
M
you have it,
class,
yeah.
we have M class, which is really nice, as far as being able to drill down into classes and individual students and whatnot, but, to be able to say, these kids were in this intervention group and here's what it looked like. You know, we've also been really looking at our structures. How are we tracking attendance at those intervention groups? How are we, tracking their progress even day to day? Beyond just when we're doing the progress monitoring, what are we noting on them?
I guess the reason I was asking about
Yeah,
the percentage of students that are in that criteria is I wonder if it would be valuable to put a goal in place of what you're going to decrease it by how much. Some of the other goals that were presented in school improvement plans had
Yeah.
a specific percentage goal that they were aiming for.
Right. Well,
So-
and we'll do that at the beginning of the year, because like those kindergartners, those kindergartners will, in first grade, we don't necessarily know their nonsense word fluency and correct letter naming now, because they're in kindergarten, they haven't, so we'll test them at the very beginning of the year. So is that what you're,
So 1 out of the 5 grade levels, we don't have data on, but the other 4 we do.
right. Yes, for what the end of year is.
Cause
Sure.
so Dibbles is designed and like in kindergarten, you only test this, and in first grade, it opens up new subtests and so on and so on. So they don't have the information yet because it's not yet tested.
Right.
But I'm also wondering if the measure is more students are at grade level.
Yeah.
Rather than the number, tracking the number of students.
And maybe that's correct, but having some kind of comparison of how you're doing through the year so that we can
Right,
see
right.
some kind of progression
Right,
or like a target, yeah.
because that has been one of our struggles, is it's almost like starting over each year.
Yeah.
Like, you know, how are we ensuring
How are you
that that is
capturing the
continuing
data
to move forward?
meaningfully?
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
Right.
tough to gain ground when
Yeah.
you don't have a real
right,
target
Yeah.
in mind.
right.
Um,
And that's been one of our struggles with even looking at iReady and even the work, it's like we do make a lot of progress in the year, but it always feels like we're right at the same place with each grade at the end of the year, like, you know what I mean? Like, if we have 50% of students reading on grade level by the end of the 4th grade year, the next year, that's still where we are in 4th grade, that percentage, like moving, we're really trying to focus on moving all of them up year over year.
Are you referring to the same cohort of students, like those 4th graders that are now 5th graders in the next year? Or
No,
your incoming?
I'm
4th
talking
graders?
about how many kids we send off to the middle school reading on level at the end of 4th grade
It
each year.
hasn't changed every year, it's similar.
Mhm. Right,
Yeah,
right, like everybody's almost on the same trajectory. How do we change that?
I think, yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be a bit more specific of a goal around percentage of students on grade level will increase by X percent. I wouldn't
Right.
prescribe it 10%, 7%, whatever's reasonable. That will be a very clear measure because you can say, yeah, we decreased, we have three less students that are, that's not
Right.
really, you know,
Right.
they may have moved out.
Yeah. Well, and what we see is, you know, in looking at iReady is year over year, the gap grows and grows and grows. And what we really need to focus on is not letting that gap grow.
Right,
Mhm,
how are we gonna do that?
mhm.
Right, that's the question here.
And then our last goal is on partnerships with families. We've heard very often from our surveys with families that they want curriculum support and to understand what students are learning. So this coming year, we will be putting on several curriculum nights. So we have an additional 3rd night for our teachers within the contract that we have not used traditionally. In the past, we always have our back to school night, we always have our conference night. So we're going to create a structure that incorporates our teachers into providing families with curriculum nights, math game nights, some of the other ways to really support both the fun side of what our kids are learning and the informational side for our families, which is what they have asked for many times. We also saw a really big need in increasing in consistent two-way communication with families. So we do a lot of, and our teachers do a lot of communication with families. But again, we really need to increase our sharing of academic data and curriculum work with our families. So, we're going to be seeking ways to increase evidence of two-way communication. That was just something that we all noticed through our evaluation system this year, that it was really hard to document the two-way partnership with families. And then additional opportunities for family feedback through surveys, forums, and participation. Starting with this survey that I'll be putting out shortly, that is really related to the aspects of this, the school improvement plan. So the survey was really created around this school improvement plan to gather their understanding of what we do and grow that. And that's it.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Through the chair.
Member Flores?
More unsolicited advice for me.
Yes.
But I would say that one thing I would think about, just when you're talking about the academics piece and explaining it to the parents, I would maybe think about figuring out how to explain what standard-based grading is, because I think that that's an area where families have a hard time, where they don't really understand, like, they know what an 85 is, but they don't really understand what a 2 is. And so, like, I do understand why we do it with the younger years, but I think that can be a disconnect for families when it comes to the grading system, of not really understanding where their kid is and
Yeah,
where they
right.
should be. And even like a progress monitoring plan, like, you know, we expect all kids to have 3s and, or, you know, whatever it is, or, you know, but just having a way to explain that, and maybe doing that a little bit with the back to school night, or having teachers kind of explain that to some of the parents who might be having questions. I would say that would be one piece of it. And then, yeah, I think it would be helpful to have some sort of like number data, that we had an idea to see like the growth that you're having throughout the years here. But overall, like, you explaining it really, I felt, gave me a really nice understanding of where you are as a school and where you want to go. And I think it's a very thoughtful assessment of what you're doing, but I think that would be helpful for, like, just so you can see the progress that you're actually doing.
Right,
You know, all the things you're making, all the things you're doing,
Yeah.
doing a lot.
Definitely.
Through the chair.
Member Miller?
I think kind of piggybacking on the chair's comments on one thing. On your last goal, everything is about showing growth and increase, well, family surveys. Do you have a basis now for any of that, where you can put some kind of percentage in? Because
Yeah.
we would, when you go to present to us how this is working, if we don't have a basic, we don't know
Right.
how it's, so just putting family survey results doesn't help unless we know what they're doing, the percentage you're getting now. And see if that goes up. So you might want to, and I understand in some of your goals, a percentage is hard right now. But in that one, I think you can, because you have paper. If they're doing the survey, you should have some kind of starting point. So I would think about that.
Right, yes, I have an end of year survey that I have ready to go out. Yes.
So you'll get those.
Yeah.
And I hate to be picky, but go back to page 7. I am telling you, I'm the person that sits and corrects grammar listening to the newscaster. So, I mean, there's a missing word.
7.
On page
Go past me.
7, it says increase the use student decodes.
Okay.
Oh, not my
I'm
wheel.
thank you.
sorry.
No, absolutely. That would be me.
I know
I'm
it's
the
a
same.
little thing.
I'm the same when it's other people's stuff. I'm like, that's spelled wrong.
Yeah, it starts to run together when you work on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It kind of
exactly.
just stuck in my.
But you know what? If that's it,
Oh, yeah.
I feel pretty
You'll
good.
take it, yeah. Not me, I never noticed any of that. Right from me.
This is a lot of words to just have one little 2-letter word missing.
I would be very interested in identifying what % decrease in Ed handbook referrals for minors is your goal.
Yeah,
in this
so
plan?
10% is what is in the.
The district one.
district
Oh,
one.
so that's what you're
Is that-
following that.
So,
That
I
makes
would
yeah, I
say-
could
I
put
would
that
recommend you
directly
put
in
that
there.
in.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that makes sense, you're following the district
Yeah,
wide set
yeah.
in there, yeah.
And the % increase in school climate survey responses, is
Mhm.
that somewhere else also?
Student, staff and parent satisfaction surveys indicate 10% improvement.
10% increase in school climate survey responses, is that the same thing? That was.
This just has the number of family responses on surveys increased by 20%.
That's
Okay.
the number of participants, because we have a very traditionally low participant ratio.
Right, yeah.
So when you say increase in school climate survey responses, you just mean the number of people that are good, bad, or indifferent, you just want more people to.
More
give
people to
feedback.
Be
do
a
it.
part of it.
Got it.
Yeah, but then obviously we want also to see is the student satisfaction surveys indicate 10% improvement.
Got it.
So that's
10% more responses and 10%
improvement.
better
so
information, yeah.
that things are better, right? Like, so,
Okay.
right, that we're moving in the right direction.
And we had like increasing coaching, sorry. go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of my survey is about understanding, because I feel like this school improvement plan is a lot about working with parents to understand our processes and give us feedback on processes.
Mhm.
So really, I wanna know what do they know? What do they understand about what we do at Park Ave Elementary? And then if there's not a lot of understanding, that means a high need for increased communication and focus groups and things like that.
How are you measuring strengthened consistency in school-wide behavioral expectations? Is that going back to the Ed handbook referrals?
Yes, back to Ed handbook, but also it's, I mean, I guess one thing we could do is a monitoring of how many we need to send back.
Meaning they don't meet the criteria
Right,
for a minor or whatever it is.
right, exactly. Exactly.
I see.
Because we have not been keeping track of that, honestly. Because we're still struggling a little bit with the lack of a code of conduct. We've been struggling a little bit with consistency with that work.
That makes sense, so that's why your first goal
with
is
the-
like that draft of the code.
Right, like a very clear expectation for both admin and teachers and parents and kids, like lay it all out with the expectation of increasing that consistency. And being able to refer back to a document that supports why something's being done, whether it's that the referral or minor is being sent back, or whether it's we're issuing this disciplinary,
It
you know.
removes all the subjectivity from it,
exactly,
very cut and dry.
right,
And the district
somewhat cut and dry.
discipline's never cut in. But the district it's a 10%, so that's like a 10% decrease is across the
Right,
board what you're
right.
looking for. Okay.
And I can put those directly into this document.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Then, if you've met that at the end of the year, we can celebrate, that success. And if we haven't, we can figure out whether or not 10% was a
Right.
reasonable goal. Maybe we need to recalibrate for the next year, but at least we have something to strive for.
Mhm.
And similarly with the percent increase in coaching cycles. I don't know if that's something that you're putting a number or a percentage on. I wrote percent, but
Yeah.
I think it just said increase in coaching cycles.
How about you guys are the ones that vote on or off, but, I could certainly go back in and add in percentages where appropriate and resubmit.
Okay. And just the last one that I
That's-
already referenced has to do with percent of students on grade level.
Mhm.
I think that's
Right.
worthwhile.
Yes, yep, because those are the things that we use, like our program-specific assessments to look at, and our writing assessment. And we do have some baseline data on that.
Good. Well, as long as it's not something you have to go out and create in preparation
No,
for
that's-
things into place.
That's
that would
work
be
we've
reasonable.
been doing,
Yeah,
collecting that data and working on it. But, like, as I mentioned, the math, we need a system for the math as well.
okay. Overall, I think really strong plan, just adding those measures, I think will keep us sort of being able to monitor that and keeping on track. I think of the 9 and
Mhm.
18 absences and checking in halfway through, similar, right?
Right,
We
right,
can
right.
Sort of check in partway through and see if we're on target, if we need to make adjustments and stuff. So, what's the desire for committee? This is a lot of revisions. How are we feeling
I
about?
feel as though that, in my opinion, I feel like you have all the information at your fingertips, you're just gonna add it in, and I feel okay with submitting the plan as long as you put the targets in.
Yeah, yep.
It's fine.
Send it back. Mhm.
Great.
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the Park Ave Elementary School Improvement Plan with the revisions that we discussed.
So,
Second,
Any further discussion? I went quickly to a motion on that. Desiree, would you please poll the committee?
Member Caleros?
yes.
Member Millet?
yeah,
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
helps a lot.
Yeah.
This is our foundation
It is a
for our
lot,
kids,
exactly.
It's so
Right.
important.
Right, yeah.
So,
And I know at my building, my admin team, we're really excited about doing this work next year, so we've
great,
been really excited building this.
really thoughtful goals and, all the right people responsible for the implementation of all these action steps. So I can't wait to see where it takes you.
Yeah, me too.
The next item on the agenda is the discussion and approval of the coaching handbook. It's Ms. Nieves.
This
Thing again.
is really no changes, two things.
Yeah.
The first is that it's no longer, we took the piece to the kids out of here because everything is mimicked in our regular handbook. I did forget to mention the one thing that changed, in the fall season sports,
Yeah.
we had and be promoted to the next grade level. We took that piece out because just like we said, those freshmores or those kids that are stuck between may have passed their 50%, but still are stuck there and can't, aren't promoted to the next grade level, so we didn't want to exclude them from playing the sports. So that's the only piece that was changed as far as the content, both in our handbook and in this book. This book, we've now asked just to go online into the art training and just to the hands of the coaches versus the kids, because like I said, it's in the other handbook.
Okay.
I updated like the clubs and the sports and stuff inside of there.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the coaching handbook as presented.
so moved.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Caleros?
yes.
Member Millet?
Yeah,
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is the approval of surplus Bartlett High School furniture. Mrs. Condos?
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit earlier. You have a document in your package of the surplus items that we're looking to declare and designate as surplus. There's actually 2 pages. One is all the items that fall within some general categories that we were able to roll up, as well as what kind of condition those are in. And then the second page are more things that fell in kind of an other category that people had to self-describe the items on their own. So we're looking at close to a little over 700 items, but you know, some of those are gonna be actually, you know, other people will be taking them, right, based on the advertising that we've done.
Any questions or comments from the committee? It's exciting. We're gonna have new furniture coming.
It is exciting. And, you know, I want to thank the staff. They, you know, across all the teachers and all the staff at Bartlett for, you know, helping in creating the surplus list. Like, we don't do this alone. We look for people to help submit forms, take pictures, give that to us so that we can help facilitate the process. So we couldn't do it without everyone's cooperation. So.
Well, thank you, and to the team also. So I'll entertain a motion to declare surplus items of miscellaneous furniture from Webster Public Schools and to direct the superintendent or the director of finance and operations to auction off, donate, or otherwise recycle or dispose of these materials in conjunction with the provisions for Mass General Law 30B.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Peleros?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yeah.
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, motion passes. And the next item on the agenda is the review, transfer,
Can I
signing
just say
awards.
one thing before you go?
Yes, please.
And then I'll let everybody take off tonight.
Sure.
I just wanted to thank the group here, and I wanted to thank the committee. I know this was a lot for one night,
Yes.
putting it on one meeting to close out the year. Hopefully in the future, we can spread this out a little bit more, so it's not so much at one time. But a lot of thought and work has gone into this by this team here. I'm truly really proud of the work that went into the strategic plan and the school improvement plans. I think this is the first time in a long time that it's work that we've all owned and live and breathe every day. We can see the work that's happening, being a part of it. And it really feels like it's our work, something that we're owning, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the time and effort. I appreciate the committee's time to give feedback ahead of time, to give us an opportunity to digest, to think, to look at it again and come back with some fresh eyes. All in all, I know it was a lot, but I just wanted to say thank you, and I wanted to thank the team. Because this is something that a big push, not only to get it done by June 30th, but because we believe in this work, and it's work we want to plan for next year, and we want to use our summer getting ready, so we start the year off strong. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their efforts and thank the committee, and I appreciate the support and excited for the year upcoming.
Yeah, agree. And thank you for saying that. And thank you to all of you. I know that I tried my best to give feedback in advance. I wasn't able to give all of my feedback in advance. It was a lot of information to digest. In addition, you know, if this was the only work that I was doing, it would have been much more manageable. But I'm busy during the day, so it was a lot of reading, really well done. And, you know, I think in the future, following the same pattern of giving the information far in advance is very helpful, and having it chunked up, right? Like, we're making incremental gains here on how we're handling these things, and it will only get better from here when it comes to dealing with some of these things before we get to the meeting. And we haven't arrived yet, but we're getting closer. Really appreciate all of you. I know how hard it can be to be in those seats, and you all did a fantastic job.
Through the chair.
Member Claris?
I would agree, and I just wanted to thank you all for your hard work. I thought the plans were all done. I thought they were excellent, and I thought that each principal gave like a really, and I know it was a whole team of you doing it, but I thought that you really gave a clear picture of your goals for each school. And I thought it was like individualized, but at the same time, it really met all the district needs. And I'm excited to see how it goes and you being able to tell us all of these things. I think it's a really nice roadmap for you to kind of display all that hard work you're doing in school and to show it off. And so I think that's great. And I thank you for taking the time to putting them all together. I think they looked great.
All right, well, the next item on the agenda, if there's no other comments, is the review, transfer, signing of warrants, bills, payroll, and vouchers. You guys are leaving, this is the easiest part of the whole meeting.
Last day tomorrow.
Last day.
I'm totally kidding.
We just have.
To adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Desiree, would you please pull the committee?
Member Carrera?
Yes.
Member Millet?
Yeah.
Chair Siddiqui?
Yes, meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Good night.